about celiac disease today. This is a disease that was once the sort of disease of infants. Kind of not a lot of known about it, other than there was a gluten intolerance. Gluten intolerance, which led to zinc deficiencies and all kinds of problems. And the celiac disease resulted in restricted growth and so on. And they figured out some 100 years ago that it was due to a intolerance, not an allergy to, but an intolerance of gluten found in wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And so the cure, so to speak, was to get these kids who are in trouble, struggling with constipation and diarrhea and slow growth and all kinds of behavioral and physical problems, was to get them off of wheat, barley, rye, and oats and have them eat rice. During the 60s, it was called the macrobiotic diet, where people ate vegetables and rice and fish, and things miraculously got better. The main thing is there was no magic in brown rice. Sometimes the macrobiotic diet was called the brown rice diet, but there was not any magic in brown rice. It was just the fact that they stopped eating wheat, barley, rye, and oats. Well, the rate of celiac disease has gone up dramatically. It used to be like 1 in a couple 100,000, wasn't a big deal. Research from the Mayo Clinic, the leader of the study says, it could be as many as 30 out of 100 could have celiac disease. And I believe in some communities where there's a powerful doctor who says, don't use salt, restrict salt, and people listen to them and they restrict salt, their chief cells in their stomach can't make stomach acid, and they have a very difficult time in breaking down wheat, barley, rye, and oat proteins to their simplest amino acids. And the women in particular get sensitized to glutens, wheat, barley, rye, and oats. They pass this on either through the cord blood to the infant and or breast milk to the infant. And the baby then has colicky. You've heard of colicky babies. And then they put babies on soy milk or rice milk, which is the worst possible thing, because nutritionally, soy milk and rice milk have nothing to do with milk. But on the other hand, they're also being sensitized, just for trying to breastfeed them for 2 weeks, sensitizes them to wheat, barley, rye, and oat glutens, and they become gluten intolerant. Then studies show that, you could be 50, 60 years of age and be able to eat all the wheat you want and all the barley, rye, and oats you want, no problem. But suddenly in your 60s and 70s, you should develop celiac disease. Well, that's because, again, restricted salt, not enough stomach acid, can't digest wheat proteins. And it's a progressive thing. When you're a little kid, just 1% of your intestine afflicted. As you're in your teenager, you might be 20% afflicted. Then when you're in your young adult in your 20s, you're going to have 25 to 50% of your intestines afflicted. You start getting a lot of diseases because most diseases are nutritional deficiencies. You can't absorb nutrients. People who say, I can take 10 aspirin, it won't hurt this headache, it won't stop this headache. I can take 10 aspirins every hour and this headache won't go away. And that's because they can't absorb the aspirin because of celiac disease. Now, as celiac disease gets worse, it's called irritable bowel syndrome. People get constipated with diarrhea alternating. Then that develops into inflammatory bowel disease. And sometimes they'll use antibiotics to knock down the bacterial load to relieve symptoms, but doesn't solve the problem unless they get off of wheat, barley, rye, and oat gluten. Then it progresses to ulcerative colitis. This can be in kids, and they get appendicitis, and adults will get diverticulitis. These are all symptoms of celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, and Crohn's disease in the most advanced stages. And the surgical removal of your intestines is the doctor's choice for Crohn's disease. There's a lot of abdominal pain. A lot of times they'll take out your gallbladder, and you'll still have abdominal pain because it wasn't a gallbladder, it was celiac disease. They will take out your intestines because you're in Crohn's disease, and they make things worse, because why would you take out somebody's intestines when they have an absorption problem? Well, that's the medical system for you. Well, all you have to do is get off of wheat, barley, rye, and oats. I'm going to repeat that. When you have celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, when you have ulcerative colitis and Crohn's disease, all you have to do is get off of wheat, barley, rye, and oats. And that includes beer, scotch, and bourbon. That includes croutons, crackers, buns, bread, muffins, pasta. And in spiritually advanced cultures, and I'm talking about the yogi type of spiritually advanced cultures where everybody's eating whole grains, they may have as many as 80 out of 100 in that community, whether it's a church community or a lifestyle community. They might have as many as 80 out of 100 have one of these stages of celiac disease. Again, celiac disease, irritable bowel syndrome, inflammatory bowel disease, ulcerative colitis, Crohn's disease. And what we like to do, and people have these problems, and they'll have asthma, and they'll have dermatitis, eczema, because it's just a shame, it's a crime that a dermatologist, when somebody has celiac disease, will give them a cortisone cream to rub on the skin. When you have asthma, they'll give you inhalers, and all you have to do is get off of wheat, barley, rye, and oats. No wheat, barley, rye, and oats in any form. No kashi, no granola. Yep, even things you think of as being healthy. When you have a gluten intolerance, you cannot eat any of that stuff. You take the 90 essential nutrients, something like the Healthy Starter Pack, and some extra antioxidants, such as our selenium, the Cell Shield RTQ, OPCTs, juice, Beyond Juice, and some of our super juices, such as noni, Z radical, O radical, all this kind of stuff. And these diseases just go away. The dietary restriction of gluten will make these diseases go away. You see benefits sometimes as quickly as 3 to 7 days. Within 3 to 7 days, you can see benefits. Certainly, in 3 months, you're a new person.